Hello friends and Happy New Year! Over time, many supervillains have devised many deadly plans to kill Superman. Rich and brilliant villains, mind-controlling telepaths, sinister scientists, sadistic imps from the fifth dimension, villains who own their own supplies of kryptonite, the stuff most deadly to Superman, and several others. But who killed him in the end? A genetically enhanced, unstoppable monster filled with nothing but deadly rage and brute power. Our very own Fameboy, Doomsday. Today we will explore the anatomy of Doomsday. We will delve into his lore to understand what makes him tick and what makes him the way he is. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. The feral embodiment of hate. Doomsday made his first full appearance in Superman the Man of Steel number 18 in December 1992. The creative team comprising Brett Breeding, Jerry Ordway, Louise Simonson, and Roger Stern created him. He was once known as the Ultimate and was developed on the planet Krypton during the Primordial Era, 250,000 years before the evolution of Superman's species. The alien scientist Bertrand was conducting an experiment on evolution. He grew a humanoid infant in vitro in his lab. He then deployed the infant into the dangerous surface of Krypton, a planet with harsh climate and terrifying predators, where he soon perished. The researcher then gathered the remnants and cloned the Ultimate once again. Every time he was torn open by the horrific monsters of ancient Krypton, he was cloned, sent back to the surface, and the pain of those deaths became a part of his genetic memory. With each new life, he adapted, got stronger, and genetically imbued it with more hatred against anything Kryptonian. He eventually developed the capacity to survive on the sun's energy alone without the need for food or air. He developed resistance to any specific type of harm with each death so that he can never be killed in the same way twice. He returned to life and evolved to survive whatever had previously killed him without the use of Bertrand's technology. The threatening predators of Krypton were chased and wiped off by the Ultimate. Then he killed Bertrand, who had become an enemy in his eyes. Using a spacecraft that frequently arrived to provide supplies to Bertrand, the Ultimate left Krypton and went on a killing rampage over multiple planets. The unstoppable killing machine. He faced Uxas, the future Darkseid, on the planet of Bylon 5. Uxas was unable to handle the Ultimate's berserk rage and fled. The planet was destroyed in the rampage. The Ultimate fled Bylon 5 in a rocket and crashed on the planet Kundia and started the mindless destruction again. The Kundian warrior Kobold fought him in space but was killed. When the Ultimate killed the Green Lantern Zaran Pel, he sensed the link of the power ring with the central power battery and targeted the planet of Oa. When the entire Corps failed to stop him, a single Guardian sacrificed himself to open a tear in space through which he fell to the planet Calaton. For 3 years, he continued his reign on the planet. The royal family combined their life forces to form an energy being named Radiant and seemingly killed Ultimate with a blast. They shackled his body in a metal case and shot him into space. His body eventually fell to Earth and got buried deep. However, he was alive, and so was his hate for Kryptonians. With every challenge that he faced before his arrival on Earth, he evolved more and more. He became stronger and more berserk. He sensed the presence of Superman that woke him up. He faced the entire Justice League and incapacitated them during his rampage on Earth. He was christened as Doomsday by Booster Gold. Eventually, Superman faced him, but the more he hit Doomsday, the stronger he got. In the final fight, they battled each other and died. Living inside the shell. Doomsday has always been depicted as a brute force of nature that destroys everything in its wake. He has never been shown to use any traditional weapons against his opponents. All we have seen is that he has always used his strength to fight them off. However, it would not have been possible if he had not evolved and grown his outer protective shell, sharp, bony protrusions that are lethally poisonous. Every time Doomsday evolved after being attacked or killed, the protrusions grew in his body, protecting each area that had faced an outward threat. Over thousands of years, these protrusions, which are made of keratin and chitin, grew all over his body, protecting him like a shell of a giant tortoise. They have grown so razor sharp that he could spill blood with just one punch, as it did Superman's. If one such bone is broken, it regrows another stronger bone in its place, which looks different and will now be unbreakable. He was even able to withstand Darkseid's Omega Beam due to his physiology. In the movie Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, he withstood missile attacks from the military and then took a nuclear missile head-on in the Earth's atmosphere. When he crash landed on Earth, he simply shut off his skin, grew those bones around his body, and unleashed a radioactive radioactive wave of thunder. Superman hit with everything he had but could not even penetrate Doomsday's skin. Wonder Woman cut off one of Doomsday's arms with her God-Killer sword. Doomsday may have been susceptible to magic as he was part Kryptonian, but the idea was never explored. He regrew a long, sharp bone in the place where his arms had been. In the final fight, he impaled and killed Superman using that bone while being impaled by Superman with a kryptonite spear, which was the only thing after the God-Killer sword that could penetrate his outer shell. Survival of the fittest. We have already talked about the continuous evolution that Doomsday's body goes through, but there have been times when he evolved above and beyond the bounds of comprehension. Doomsday unexpectedly acquired the powers of flight and the capacity to encase his body in metallic armor that could even withstand Steel's paralyzing nanites during his battle with the latter. He showed the capacity to absorb energy from Looker and Halo's strikes and send it back to them in a huge burst by manipulating raw power like the Eradicator. Doomsday's body was torn apart by the cyborg Superman during their fight. He immediately replaced the lost body parts with bionic ones from his own body, giving him a huge amount of technopathy. When facing Superboy, the monster displayed blue eyes that indicated telekinetic strength much greater than his own. Although it was later revealed that these were Doomsday's genetically designed powers to take out Superman, the fact that Doomsday's evolutionary powers were utilized for the purpose shows us what an advanced being he is. The death virus in his blood. In the new 52 version, Doomsday developed a virus that could kill anything within 100 yards of him, so Superman tried to stop him by flying him to Venus, where his body would be burned by the planet's intense heat. Doomsday was seemingly killed in the battle and Superman returned to Earth, but Doomsday regenerated and teleported back to Smallville. In order to stop the death virus from spreading and to keep Doomsday contained inside his body, Superman split Doomsday in half, burned him to ashes, and then inhaled those ashes. It is revealed that Brainiac ordered the Phantom King Zadu to unleash Doomsday in order to eliminate Superman as he was getting ready to absorb the consciousness of everyone on Earth. In only a short span of time, Superman started displaying more violent personality traits. His skin began to turn progressively gray and rock-like, and he began to grow bony protrusions. This demonstrated that Superman has contracted Doomsday's virus, and despite his attempts to burn off his rage by flying into an asteroid belt and destroying asteroids, the virus inside gradually gained control. Eventually, Superman was able to contain Doomsday's furious might and wrath for long enough to assault and destroy Brainiac's enormous mothership by pulling it into a black hole while simultaneously healing himself of the Doomsday virus. Intelligence comes with a price. Doomsday could never be classified as a stupid monster. Instead, he was a killing machine solely driven by rage and hate against anything living. This was the only driving force behind his being. But what if he started to feel? In order to mark the 100th issue since Superman was killed fighting Doomsday, Superman Volume 2, Issue 175 staged a rematch. Using Superman's Kryptonian DNA, Lex Luthor was able to recover Doomsday's bones and create new flesh from it. He then surrendered Doomsday to Darkseid to pay off Earth's war debt to Apocalypse, as Darkseid had wanted to control Doomsday since their last encounter. Doomsday had developed consciousness and intellect by this point. To prove that he was in a fine functioning shape, Luthor had the Joker let out Doomsday in Washington, D.C. Additionally, it was the anniversary of the day Superman had passed away. Superman's heart was restarted by black lightning despite being damaged by exposure to kryptonite when Luthor tried to take advantage of Doomsday's Kryptonian roots. Doomsday wanted to kill Luthor since he considered Luthor responsible for his death during the Imperiex War event. When Doomsday finally faced Superman, Superman made use of Doomsday's newfound intelligence and sentience and made him aware of the awful effects of intellect that all sentient creatures must suffer, such as fear, concern, and self-doubt. Doomsday was reminded of the time when he was killed by Superman. He experienced the fear of death and defeat and pain that he had faced earlier. That doubt and agony, however little it was, reduced Doomsday's superhuman abilities to the point where Superman was finally able to knock him out. So we can clearly see that intelligence was a bummer and weakness for Doomsday. He was better off at his peak being a brute, rather. Thrown into the sun. Many a time, Superman and other superheroes have tried to kill Doomsday, but they have failed. After the death of Superman, Cyborg bound Doomsday to an asteroid and threw him into space, but he eventually returned. Superman threw him into the end of time, scattered him between 4 transporters, and Doomsday was banished into the Phantom Zone once. Even that could not stop him from returning. However, in the comic book series based on the television show Smallville, it was shown that Superman ultimately plummeted Doomsday into the heart of the sun. And guess what? That actually stopped him. We all know that Doomsday can evolve and regenerate from any kind of destruction, so even if destroyed by the intense heat of the sun, Doomsday would be able to evolve and become stronger. However, he would not be able to escape. It would be a hellish cage for Doomsday, where he would regenerate and atomize again and again by the sun's intense heat. Also, there would be no external agent who would even try to go near the sun. So, throwing him into the sun seems like a logical way to stop Doomsday. Is he really immortal? This question has arisen many times since the death of Superman's story arc. Is he really an immortal being? Can he really not die? Let us try to draw an interference. This is the point of view of the readers, but when the definition of being an immortal is analyzed, we can easily conclude that Doomsday is not really an immortal being. As per terminology, an immortal being cannot be killed, but he has been killed over and over again since his birth. He can be resurrected from death, but he is not an immortal. We can safely arrive at the verdict that his regenerative and evolutionary abilities have kept him alive till date. Marvelous verdict. So friends, that was all there is to know about the anatomy and physiology of Doomsday. He is a unique creature, and the way he functions, no other supervillain does. His creation and incorporation in the comic books made history in 1992 when he killed the best superhero out there in the history of time. Superman, that is. His relentless nature was only the reflection of the cruelty that was wrought upon him. He was what society made him, and a perfect example of a personified form of society's sins coming back to haunt them in its most feral physical form. We promise to keep you all posted with our takes on supervillain anatomy whenever another interesting supervillain comes up in the funny pages. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.